We are now on sound recording 3, so make sure that you've looked at sound clip 1 and 2 before you look at sound clip 3. In sound clip 2, we looked at example E, the component where the lessor did finance the VAT. Now we're going to look at the situation where the lessor does not finance the VAT. How do we know from the information that the lessor does not finance VAT? Because the installments are calculated to redeem 70,000, which is the amount excluding VAT. Now, if we go to the next slide, you will see that we once again have the big picture that we had when we were looking at where the lessor did finance the VAT. This big picture will be exactly the same as for the situation where the VAT was financed. Now, once you have the big picture, then you ask the question, is VAT financed? As we've already discussed on the previous slide, VAT is not financed. That means that the installment will not include VAT. The loan will not include VAT. The installment will then be taxable in full. And because my receivable will not include any VAT, the entire receivable will represent taxable future economic benefits, and therefore I do not have to make a distinction in the carrying amount of my receivable. Once again, for wear and tear, we will have to identify whether we use 12E or 12C. Once again, it will be 12C as in the previous situation. When we calculate our interest rate implicit in the lease, you will notice that now the PV is 70,000, the amount excluding VAT, because VAT is not financed. When we do our journal entry day 1, we will first have our gross investment that you can calculate yourself. Once again, we will de-recognize the asset because we no longer have the risk and rewards associated with ownership. We will credit our unearned finance income, which is the gross investment less the net investment. Remember, the net investment will be the PV on your calculator that you use to calculate your interest rate implicit in the lease. An additional journal entry that we will need day 1 is to debit bank. Why debit bank? Because remember, the lessor does not finance the VAT for the lessee, and therefore the lessee has to pay the full VAT amount to the lessor day 1. But because this is an installment credit agreement, the lessor has an obligation to pay over the output VAT to SARS, and therefore the lessor will credit the VAT or tax control account. If we look at our amortization table, we will see that we now start with a balance of 70,000, which is the amount excluding VAT because VAT is not financed. If we look at the installment of 31168, will the lessor be taxed on that full installment? Yes, because it does not include any VAT. Once again, on which amount will wear and tear be calculated? The same principle as where VAT was financed. So now let's look at the finance lease receivable, the balance at reporting date. Now, to know what the tax base will be, we first will have to ask ourselves, does the finance lease debtor represent taxable future economic benefits? Because the full installment consisting of capital and interest will be taxable in future, and the finance lease debtor represents future capital, the full 50032 will represent taxable future economic benefits, and the tax base will therefore be our future tax deductions. What will our future tax deductions be? Our future wear and tear allowances, which will be the 70,000 times 80%, which will give us 56,000, which will give us a temporary difference and will give us deferred tax. Now, the current tax on ISA and the deferred tax on ISA, you can look at that yourself, as it is self-explanatory. So, the sound clips have dealt with the deferred tax and VAT in respect of the lessor. The rest you can find on the slide. And regarding the accounting treatment, between your notes and your slides that I've loaded on ClickUp, it will be more than enough so that you can understand that because you've done it in third year.